Welcome, boys and girls. Ken Smith Fishing. $100,000 mistake. I can't even imagine. So, if you don't know what happened, this was at Wright Patman Lake outside of Texarkana this past weekend. The National Professional Fishing League was there. And a young man from Georgia by the name of Barron Adams won the tournament, went in, did his polygraph. At the end of the polygraph, apparently in their circuit, you have to, the polygrapher actually is the one. Now, I don't know this to be a case, but this was told to me by a pretty good source. But basically, the polygraph guy says, okay, you passed. All I need is your valid fishing license. And he pulled up his phone and he said, pop, 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 pop. And said, uh-oh. So he went through so you can buy a Texas fishing license online. It's really, really simple to do. I've done it the last couple of years. And he went through the entire process and didn't hit that purchase button. And that mistake cost him $100,000. So a guy named Ryan Satterfield, who's a local there at Texarkana, actually won that tournament. Wright Patman's his home late. Our boy from Jones Trolling Motor, Michael Yoder, finished 6th, I believe. He had a very poor first day, and then I think he caught one of the biggest stringers, if not the biggest stringer of the tournament on day 2 to get back in it, make the cut, or I guess they all fished the 3rd day. But to fish the 3rd day and wound up finishing 6th place. He only had 4 bites the last day. I actually said he made a mistake. I hadn't thought about this, but on Wright Patman, the mud had flowed past where he was catching them, and they closed the dam, and when they did, it backwashed that mud back up to where he'd been catching them, and that sort of ruined his last day. And he said, when I got there, I knew not to stay, but I stayed anyway until too late. He said, I should have just turned around. He said, I've done it enough times on that lake to know just run the 25 minutes back down to the main lake or however far it is, and fish the normal looking water. And he said he made that mistake that he didn't, because he's caught him up there a few times in the mud. So anyway, so that $100,000 mistake, and just we've all had bad tournaments, especially the ones away from home. The guy drove all the way from Georgia to get over here, and this is just straight up insult to injury. Apparently Friday, when the young man took his sweatpants off, his truck keys were in his sweatpants. Truck keys come out of his pants, went in the water, lost his keys, couldn't get a new key made. They're all electronic keys now until Monday. So when probably all in the world he wanted to do was get out of Texarkana, Arkansas, or Texarkana, Texas, he was stuck there in a hotel room with his truck sitting in the parking lot until Monday, when he could get a key made to get in his truck and drive home. So Barron Adams, man, I feel for you. Look, we've all made mistakes like that. Sorry, I got a motion light here. It'll turn off on me if I get real still. A quick story. We were on Lake Ouachita fishing the BFL Regional years ago, and made the 3rd day cut, top 12 fishermen fishing, and we got fogged in. So we're sitting there at the marina, and if you don't know that particular marina, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a floating marina. So there's a marina, and we're just all sitting around talking. About 9 o'clock, and just kind of thinking about stuff. And I started thinking about my fishing license, and I thought, nah, I'm good. I got here, practiced Saturday. I bought a 7-day license. It's Saturday, wait a minute, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I thought, oh crap, my fishing license isn't good. And I just very quietly stood up and slinked inside. And luckily, they sold fishing licenses. And I bought my fishing license. I walked back outside, and Dickie was sitting there, Dickie Newberry. And I said, is your fishing license still good? He goes, yeah, I bought a 7-day. We were traveling together. And I said, you heard a little bit of math there. And I saw him go through the same math I did in his head. So I saw him go through the same math I did in his head. And it was just, oh crap. And I said, they sell them inside. And I'll tell you that. So number one, we both had great tournaments. If I remember right, I think Dickie won that tournament. We both had great tournaments. Number two, had it not been for the fog delay, we'd have both been disqualified from that tournament. So didn't cost me $100,000, buddy, but I feel your pain. It's happened to a lot of guys. My good friend Bill Wilcox and his partner had that happen to them once and lost $40,000. Just keep your chin up. That's a really hard one to take. Just keep your chin up. That's going to be a really hard one to swallow. I understand, don't blame you a bit for probably not wanting to fish for a while, but this is one of those you guys could put behind you and move on. And I'll also tell you, I wish there was a way to separate an unintentional rule break with a rule break, and there's not. But I caught a guy cheating, red-handed in a Bassmasters tournament. We were fishing. I'll tell you the story real quick. I've never, and I will not share this name publicly because I can't prove it, and I'm not going to get sued for slander, but it happened, and I got no reason to make this up. I was a young man, and it was an invitational tournament, so you draw boater on boater, and we run over into Powell Park. If you guys know Powell Park at Rayburn, it's buoys across the front, and it's just a bowl, and back then there was no grass in there. And this guy, and I'm not going to tell you his credentials because you could figure it out, but everybody knew this guy. This guy was a big name in bass fishing. And we pulled up back there, and he picked up a little crankbait, and he made cast after cast. There was one little cypress tree on it, not on a point, just on the side of the bank. And he threw at it, and he threw at it, and about the 15th cast up there, he loads up on this fish, brings the fish, no nets allowed. So he brings the fish over here, and he ropes the fish. So I'm up there, okay? So he ropes the fish and turns his back to me and squats down right here and unhooks the fish. And my head went, boom. And I'm like, this guy's way better than me. So he puts it on about 60% and goes about 40 yards down that bank to another little tree up on the bank. And by the way, makes like 3 casts. Proceeds to do the same thing. Cast, 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 cast. Loads up on a fish. Exact repeat. Turns his back to me, boat flips it, catches it, puts it in live weight. And I'm like, man, what bait are you throwing back there? It's an old crankbait I found, and I don't, and I'm like, can I see it? And he's, no, we're fishing against each other. And I'm like, and again, I was young, and I'm like, okay. And I also noticed he was throwing it on like 20-pound line. And I remember thinking, he must be trying to keep it off the bottom. And in my head, the wheels are spinning. And the third fish he catches, he does the same thing, turns his back on me. And now I'm like, I ain't had a bite. But every time he makes multiple casts at a spot. And the third spot was actually a little point, but it was real subtle, but I could tell he had a line up on it he was trying to hit. And I was thinking, man, this guy's just way better than me. The fourth time he did that, he made that cast, and I'm like, I'm gonna get a look at this guy's bait, because he's got a bait there one. He flips that fish in the boat, he turns his back to me, and when he does, I lean over his back. And that fish has got that crankbait right here, it's a wiggle wart. The hooks are really rusted up, except he sharpened the point super sharp. And right where that fish is hooked, there's a loop of line tied through the fish's mouth and a piece of line about that long. And I said, well, I'm not going to repeat what I said, but I said, you're a cheater. You're a piece of you-know-what cheater. And let's go back to the ramp because you're done fishing. And we argued, and we're in his boat. And again, this was probably 95 or 96, so I was in my early 30s. And this guy was probably 10 or 15 years my senior. And we argued some, and he said, we're not going to the bank. You can do whatever you want when we get back up there. So we fished the rest of the day. We never spoke again, except for me to tell him to get on the back deck when it was my turn to run the boat, because that's how it used to work back then. I walk up on the stage, and Trip Weldon's standing there, and I said, Trip, I need to file a formal protest. What's going on? He knows, he sees who I'm fishing with. So I pull Trip off the stage, and I tell him word for word exactly what I witnessed. By the way, not coincidentally, when he caught that fourth fish in that pocket, after we got through arguing, we left. He never made another cast in that pocket. He did everything he possibly could to prove he was guilty, not the least of which was having his nippers around his neck on a lanyard so he could clip them fish free. By the way, when I saw him do that, he clipped that and threw it overboard, and he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. You can tell I'm getting angry about this. But anyway, so Tripp said to me, they went and they talked about it, and they came back up. And in so many words, what he said was, and I always laughed about the old financial crisis, the too big to fail with the banks, where they wouldn't let some banks fail. He said to me, this guy was too big for them to DQ him, that they didn't have evidence to DQ him other than my word. And although they believe me, it would be my word against his word. And my comment back to him was, so basically what you're telling me is you don't want BASS to get a black eye, that you won't enforce your own rules. And he literally dropped his head. And he said, "That's not what I'm telling you, but we cannot disqualify this gentleman. This angler is actually what he said, just by going with your word." And he did tell me we'll watch him very closely going forward. I don't know if they did that or not, but I watched him, and I only ever saw him cash one more check after that. He doesn't fish anymore, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But I was really, that was one of the last Bassmasters tournaments I ever fished, because I felt like they would enforce the rules back then. I'm sure they're a completely different tournament organization now than they were back then, but I was so disappointed in their lack of enforcing them that I applaud. That was a really, really long way to say I applaud NPFL for enforcing their rules. I know that was hard. They certainly did not. I mean, look, the guys below him were happy because they all moved up. A couple of them made a lot more money because he got disqualified. But nobody wanted to win. I promise you, Ryan didn't want to win that tournament that way, and this gentleman, he sure didn't want to lose that way, and NPFL didn't want to disqualify him. So sorry that it happened to all you guys. I understand making that mistake. We've all made silly mistakes. Keep your head up, man. Barron, just keep your head up, keep fishing. Look, you just demonstrated you can win one, you can win another one. So keep your chin up, keep fishing, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Sarah is, as of Thursday, off crutches. This is the longest I've been. I actually come over here to check my inventory on some stuff and see what was in the boat. We'll be back fishing this weekend. I cannot wait. This is the longest I've been away. I actually fished more than this the month after Landon was born. So I've not been on water. I've not had content for you guys. I appreciate y'all hanging around, and I'll get some good content up for you. We're going to fish hopefully both days this weekend. The sailboat's blowing around over there. And I'm really looking forward to it. This has been a very difficult process on Sarah and I both. So Thursday, guys, if you'll stick around, I'm going to post some video from the Athens Fish Hatchery. I got to do a tour when we were over there doing the Freshwater Fisheries Advisory Committee meeting a week ago today, actually. A week ago tomorrow when y'all see this. I got some cool footage. And I'm going to say it now, and I'll say it again when I do the video. That place is closing this summer, July or August, for about a year remodel. So if you want to get the kids over there, you need to start thinking about doing that pretty soon, because it's going to be closed for a long time. I'm excited to see what they do after, because it's already a super cool place. The Hall of Fame, a 16-pounder, an aquarium, watching a bunch of 13-pounder spawn, which you're going to see, some cool footage. It's great stuff. So thanks for tuning in. Stick around. I'll have some great stuff for you guys this coming Thursday.